Welcome, welcome everybody to Help the Helpers. And those of us who are in the New York area are covered in snow, and it's so beautiful, but it stops everything. And so I was supposed to go back to the city, and I'm in the country, no way of getting back to the city. So I'm speaking to you on my iPad. So uh, you'll notice that I won't be able to see who anybody is exactly, but I'll get the general idea of who you are. So, welcome to this segue into our month of February, which will be the whole month of talking about the things that are difficult to talk about, conversation about the unconversable, saying the unsayable. And And Rosa, who has a great deal of experience helping groups to talk to each other and has been a long time focuser and was in our community empowerment project. She will be leading us today, and we're so happy to have you, Rosa. And of course, you don't even need an introduction because we all know you. But Katerina, I think, is going to read a couple of things from the bio.
Yes, yes. Among other things, Rosa Zubizarreta is an affiliate practitioner with the Co-Intelligence Institute. And the invitation you have from today has lots of links to Rosa's writings and to her previous videos with Help for Helpers, three of them. So, Rosa.
Thank you so much, Katerina, and thank you so much, Lynn. It's a real pleasure and an honor to be here in this role. I love Help the Helpers. I'm not an every Monday person because sometimes I just, yeah, sometimes it doesn't quite work out. But I know that whenever I've come here as a participant, it has been a very, very deeply meaningful experience as well. And yes, I have been here a few times to offer something. Um, Joanna has said, Dear Rosa, dear all, I am sick and in bed and will be staying with my camera off, which is perfectly okay. No forgiveness needed, but thank you so much for letting us know, Joanna. And let's see. Yeah, some familiar faces and some people that I don't know yet, but I'm looking forward to getting to know because this will be highly participatory even before the breakout groups. But I would like to start out by saying a few words. Um, I'm going to put my little stopwatch on here because I don't want to go on for too long. Um, So I want to start out by saying there's a Gene story, and I'll get to the Gene story, but I want to start out by saying that saying the unsayable to me, as I was as I was sitting with this and feeling into this upcoming gathering and what I wanted to share most, the word that came up for me was context, because when we're saying the unsayable, there's another half there that is missing. It's like I'm imagining that most of us want to also be heard, right? So if we want to be heard when we say the unsayable, then it matters so much what the context is, who we're speaking with, why we're speaking in that moment. Um, is it a good moment? When are we speaking? Are people expecting us to say the unsayable, or are we catching them off guard, right? And with whom are we speaking, etc. So I would love to just, I don't know, see a show of hands or something. Like, for whom does it resonate that there's this saying the unsayable in a way that can be heard? Is that I'm seeing Susan say waving and Lynn and Nancy and Eric. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's a question I'm asking myself, right? Like, how can we say the unsayable in a way that can be heard? And because otherwise, it's pretty easy to just say the unsayable and have it go into a void. And in fact, there's a technical name for this, which I don't really know. But it happens so often that group psychologists have actually written about it. Like, what happens when you say something in a group and the group just kind of goes on as though nothing has been said, right? And sometimes people talk about how what or write about how what you've said has just landed outside the capacity of the group to even digest. And it's like it goes into this void. So yeah, I'm gonna pause and take a breath here. Yeah, so there's a little bit of anxiety around saying the unsayable, which I think some of it can be like, will I even be heard? And some of it maybe more, right? Like, will I be punished for saying the unsayable? Will I be cast out of the group for saying the unsayable? Um, yeah, all of that. Hmm. And so context brings me to roles. Like, it's very different. So the role that I'm mostly in most often with regard to saying the unsayable, well, this isn't quite true. It's kind of true. I'll just complete the sentence. One role that I'm often in with regard to saying the unsayable is the role of being a facilitator in a group. So my job is to make it as safe as possible for people to say the unsayable and for people to be heard, right? Um, and we can talk about why in a moment, um, but that's very different from when I'm not in a role like that. I'm also a regular everyday person and I'm in an interaction with my partner or with my friend, and there's some issue in the relationship that I want to bring up and it feels unsayable, and no one's in the role of facilitator, right? I'm a participant. I might be a facilitative participant. I might try and set up a situation so that both of us feel safe that we're going to be heard, but I'm also a participant. And that is super tricky, right? Is different at any rate. And I think for a lot of us, it's harder when we're in a situation where no one is formally holding us. So that's why I might say, oh, let's go to couples counseling, because then I'm going to be in a room where somebody's going to be holding me and holding my partner, and they're going to be helping us say the unsayable. And that makes it a lot easier, right? But when I'm in both roles, being a participant who really wants to say something that feels unsayable and wants to be heard, and there's no one else who is holding space for both of us. I just want to mark that, right? It's important to figure out how to do that. And it's harder. And I'm often in a little bit of an easier role. Paradoxically, it's easier. There might be a room full of people, there might be like 25 people there. But my role is as a host to help create a space where everyone feels safe to say the unsayable. And so that's the role I am in now, to whatever extent you all are willing to have me be in that role, because I feel really strongly, I think and feel and I sense, I don't know what word to use there, but that anytime we are in a group situation, we as participants are the ones who are authorizing whoever is in whatever role or position of formal role or position of a little bit of authority, like a facilitator or even a government, right? It's like we can withdraw our consent at any time. Takes a little bit of organization, takes a little bit of communication, but we are the ones. And so likewise, when I'm facilitating a group, you all are the ones who have the power to allow me to facilitate or not. So one of the things that I first do whenever I'm in a role of facilitating a group is I invite people to see whether you might agree to some basic working agreements between us about my role and what that role means. Because I can't do what I do unless y'all are willing. Am I making sense? Can I see hands? I see a nod. Yeah, yeah. So this is all very fresh in my mind and heart because I've just a little bit of my context I'm going to share. And how long have I been talking? 7 minutes. Okay. I want to share a little bit of my context with you before opening it up to participation. I just finished with some friends hosting something that we were calling the Co-Creating Desired Futures Gathering. And my friend lives in Brooklyn. It's a couple. My two friends who I'm staying with live in Brooklyn. And right out the window, I'm seeing this thing called the I think it's called the Brooklyn Army Terminal. It's this big, huge building that's like a converted building. I don't know if any of you are familiar with it. And it's been turned into a lot of uh, office spaces and art lofts. And so there was a small group of people. The first day there were 12 of us. The second day there were 9 of us because some people couldn't come back. And we spent a evening and a whole day on Saturday focused on how do we talk about what matters to us, about how we can help our communities become better places for everyone to live. And it became a space where we could say what was really in our minds and in our hearts, and especially things that we might feel are unsayable. So at the very beginning, I said, okay, this is what I want to ask of all of you. The first thing is my role as a facilitator is to listen well to everyone. And I can only do that well when people are speaking one at a time. So are you willing to speak one at a time? And then you can nod, or you can say, I don't know, or you can say, have a object, right? But this is a real question. I'm not just saying these are the guidelines. Can you go along with them? Are you willing to speak one at a time?
Hi,
And
Rosa.
also maybe willing to pause once in a while.
Yeah, yes, thank you for adding another working agreement. And so in this group, we were meeting in person. There was a little table in the center, and I put a bell in it, and I put a pair of maracas in it, and I put a little heart-shaped green stone. And I said, at any point when it feels like we're going too fast, or someone just has been raising their hand and hasn't been seen, or you want to get in a word edgewise, you're welcome to go to the center, pick up one of these, and then we will all pause. And we will all take a breath. And then the person who is holding whatever the the the, the play tool is will be the next person to speak after our pause. Yeah. So that's how we worked pauses in there. So there's a few more, but I don't know that they matter so much. Well, they kind of do, at least one of them. So the invitation to say the unsayable was framed like this. This is a creative process, so what you have to say really matters, especially if you feel like what you have to say is way out in left field. Like we're all over here someplace and you're like, I don't know what these people are thinking, but nobody's talking about this, which I think is what really needs to be talked about. So the request for the working agreement is, would you be willing to speak up, especially when it feels really hard? So there's a reference that marks some of us as having been around for a long time. There's a Archie Bunker and All in the Family, and he would say, "Stifle yourself" to his wife. So would you be willing to not stifle yourself? And that's a question now. Again, would you be willing to not stifle yourself? And I'm seeing Nancy nod. Anyone else? Yeah, Sophie. Yeah, Bob. Would you be willing to not stifle yourself, or at least consider it, right? I'm extending an invitation. And then the third working agreement is, and this is where the Gene story comes in. Okay. So in, I was doing this separately, that this doesn't come from Gene, but I was once at a TAE workshop where he had given a talk and then he was doing question answer interactive response afterward, and somebody asked him a question about something. I don't remember the content of the question, but it was fairly intricate, had some philosophy involved in it. And Gene responded. First, he made sure he was understanding the question, and then he responded carefully at length, and he kind of very interactive. He was making sure this had landed with this person. They had this little exchange. And then somebody else raised their hand. And then this other person shared something that was a little bit of a, well, this person said X, but what about Y? And as they were saying it, they were kind of looking at the person who had spoken before. And Gene immediately paused them in a really gentle way, but really clear way too. He said, wait. I really want to hear what you have to say. And can you say that to me? Can you leave this person over here who was saying his thing and da, 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 and I really want to hear what you have to say, but can you say it to me? And so the person did, and Gene listened and responded, and whatever. And then afterwards, I remember I had not met Gene before. I did not have some kind of long-standing friendship with Gene, but I had to talk to this person, right? Because they had just done this thing that I was very familiar from my facilitation work. And so I walked up to him and I said, "Oh, hi." He was outside taking a smoking break. "Can I sit for a minute and talk to you?" And he said, "Oh, if you don't mind my, polluting the air or whatever." And I said, "No, I don't mind. My dad used to smoke. It feels very familiar." He was like, "Okay." So I sat there, and you know how accessible, those of you who met Gene ever know how accessible he was. Like, he was not a difficult person to start a conversation with, even if you had never met him. And so I was like, "Well, I just came here to, because I had to talk with you, because even though we've never met, I was fascinated by something that you did in the group just now. Um, when you, I forget what I first said, but I said something like, when you supported the group process by, and he was like, "What?" So he said, describe what happened. I described what happened. And he said, "Oh, you mean when I destroyed group process?" And I said, well, I suppose you could look at it that way. For me, you were helping a different kind of group process happen." And he was like, "No, no, no, no. I was destroying group process, because what the group process people say is that people have to always talk to each other. But I'm doing something different here." So you have to find a different name for it. And so that's it. That's the little brief interaction. And I don't usually tell this story because I'm not usually with a group of focusers when I'm facilitating. But what I am saying to people as the third working agreement is that when we're talking about things and we really care, sometimes we want to try and convince or persuade a person who feels really differently about what I'm saying. And we have a tendency to kind of get in their face about it, which is very understandable. But as human beings, we are designed in this horribly unhelpful way, where the more that somebody is trying to get in our face and get us to understand something, the more we tend to dig in our heels and not be able to listen. So if it seems like this is starting to happen, would it be okay with you if I step right in the middle and say, can you say it to me? And can you say it to me? And I don't even care who goes first. You can toss a coin, but I can almost guarantee that if you say it to me and I reflect it back and I write it up here on the charts, this is when it's live, that, and then go to the other person, both of you will hear what the other person is saying more deeply than if you're saying it in each other's face. So would that be okay if I do that? And I see Lee has hands up, and Charles, and Sophie. So the other circumstance where I really make a point of it to step right in the middle, not just when people are going like this, but when somebody has a great, big, beautiful idea and somebody else is about to poke a pin in it, right? Like criticisms are okay, but I want to protect creativity by having the person direct the criticism to me instead of to the person who just floated up this big, beautiful balloon of an idea. So it's not just this, it's also, ooh, I want to stop that. I want to protect people from that in the space that I'm holding. So that's pretty much it. There's a few more, but they're less relevant right now. So with just those three agreements, are we willing to get started? The floor is open to whoever would like to share something. Yes, Liz.
Oh, it's so much. Big ball of tangled yarn, and I'm looking to
Mhm.
find some little end to get into. So w- I'm listening, and I'm wondering about content. Not all unsayables are the same, right? So I'm not exactly sure what kind of groups you're talking about, but I'm picturing opinions that are unsayable. Uh, and I'm thinking of sort of levels of opinion or what I think I believe, as they say in social psychology, beliefs, attitudes, and values. They seem important, but they're also sort of superficial in a certain context. It's sort of like you have all these feelings about things and history and you come up with it all goes into a big mixing bowl and your family history and everything else. And then you come out with the product, which is beliefs, opinions, and attitudes. And then sometimes when we're thinking about what we can't say, it's in that realm, okay, which is a certain kind of content. But then you could have underneath it, if you want to say something to somebody, that person you want to talk to, and underneath it, it's barely sayable to yourself, right? That, I want to tell you how I disagree with you, but I've never thought you were really that bright. I'm wasting my time. You can't hear me. All the kind of ugly stuff that goes underneath that will very, very rarely ever be said in a group, the real taboos. And I wonder if there really is a way to go back to where you were at the beginning, where you asked, is there a way, always a way to make it acceptable? And people, I think, raise their hands. Oh, yes, there's always a way. But, so there's that level, the deep deep levels, maybe one of the deepest levels where you don't even know it yourself. You just know you've got a bad feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
This isn't someone I could ever communicate with, or this person, as I said, it's not smart enough to understand. Well, that's a defense too, right? That person's not smart enough to understand me, or I'm wasting my time because I'm going to say how I feel, and they're going to start quoting Heidegger. In other words,
Yeah.
it's there's so much
Yeah.
stuff that we even when we talk about the unsayable, there I've been sitting here thinking about all kinds of unsayables, just even Rosa with what you've been
Yeah. May I
saying,
reflect?
and you come out with what's the final product? A bunch of people who have an intention of being in a group together. That's a very high level thing in itself, right? And you said rules of engagement. I mean, it's also socialized what you're talking about. And I'm talking about more like id things or, really primitive. Well, I shouldn't put it down by calling it primitive. But you know what I'm talking about? What's really going on? I have a friend who calls it the RGO, really
Yeah.
going on.
Thank you. May I reflect back some of what I heard from
Please
you, Liz?
do. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. So I'm hearing different layers of the unsayable and some very deep ones that you're naming kind of the id layer, like the kind of judgments we might have about another person and the kind of things we might not even have said to ourselves, right? And you're wondering, is it always possible to say the unsayable, or when is it possible to say the unsayable at a deep level? And I'm sorry, I wrote down RGO, but I'm not recalling what it means to your friend now that calls it RGO.
Really going on. I think
What's
it was
really
teenage
going on?
slang in some communities.
What's really going on? I like that. Yeah, yeah. So is that a close enough summary? Is there more that I didn't
Yes, I would
quite
just
get?
flip a little bit in the id part was not the all of your hidden opinions. The id part is more like, ugh, I can't stand this person. Why am I even here?
Yeah,
Or,
yeah.
and that
Now,
felt threatening even when I just said that now.
yeah, our judgments about one another, right? So
Well,
what
once again, I wouldn't call it a judgment.
you
Maybe it
wouldn't
is a
call it a
judgment,
judgment.
but I think of
Okay.
judgment as more, like
Okay.
superego. It's
Our
more
gut reactions and gut responses to one another.
gut,
Yeah, is that
dirty,
more closer?
gutty things.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay, thank you. So I'm just going to allow that to sit here in the group with us for a bit. And I want to read what's in somebody put in the chat. So Sandy Jami Berg calls it when we respond to what has when we respond to what has been said, that we talk into the center of the circle, not to the individual who made the previous contributions. So it's a group process, not a one-on-one process. Yes, thank you so much for offering that. I was really clear with Katarina when she invited me to do this, that I wanted to make sure to say that there's a lot of different ways of helping people say the unsayable, right? I'm just offering one. It's like when dear BB Simon used to say, how I teach focusing. She wasn't saying, this is how you should teach focusing. She would have these workshops at all the internationals, how I teach focusing. So this is like how I help people say the unsayable. There's lots of different ways. And this analogy of speaking into the center of the circle is one that I often mention. And then she goes on to say, I invite using some simple hand signals in the work, in the group. For example, please slow down, or this resonates with me. This way we can communicate information non-verbally, which doesn't interfere with the verbal interactions. So we are making use of two channels of communication available to us at the same time. Ooh, I love hand signals. So can someone help me out? Um, uh, Richa, the person who shared this, um, what hand signal would you propose for please slow down? We can't hear you. You're on mute right now.
Oh, thank you so much. I think it can be anything that the group, especially if it's a group that meets, that can agree together. But
Mhm.
ones that I've used, for example, are literally just this.
This means please slow down.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is often like, yeah, me too, I resonate.
Wavy, is it wavy fingers? Is it? I can't quite see your hands.
Oh, yeah, it's two fingers against near the temples.
Means I understand, I resonate.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Okay.
this one, for example, would be like mourning, or that's I feel a bit sad or something, like that.
Morning. Okay.
Yeah,
So can we stay with those three for a minute and practice them so we can get them? So hands moving down, meaning please slow down,
yeah,
and fingers here, meaning I understand. I'm
yeah,
understanding.
yeah. I'm with you. I'm on the
I'm
same.
with you. I'm understanding.
Mhm.
And fingers waving down like this, like mourning, like that. I'm
Yeah,
sad, or yeah,
feeling
okay.
sad. And then, of course, the heart is that I'm touched. I'm moved in a
Yeah,
in
yeah,
a helpful way. So you got affective. You can see in real time how you're affecting the audience with
yeah,
taking
yeah, yes. Thank you.
reading.
So I want to appreciate your offer and welcome anybody to use hand signals. And yeah, is there more that you want to say, Richa?
I think that's it for now. I mean, there are many more hand signals that are, there are lots of charts online and people make up their own for their own group, which is really lovely. There's one like time out, which is like, or
Mm-hmm,
check. This is like, whoa. So,
mm-hmm.
but yeah, that's it. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. And then Priyanka added something saying it's called jackal honesty in NVC. And my sense is that's not about hand gestures, but it's maybe more about the sharing our gut reactions, which I tend to call judgments, but I don't think of them as mental, but whatever it is that we call them, those things about is that what you were referring to, Priyanka, when you said it's called Jackal Honesty in NVC? And I'm not seeing
Yeah.
you on the
So
screen. There's two screens here. So,
can you see me now?
yes, I can see you now. And please, please, yes.
Yeah. What came up for me when I heard Liz sharing earlier was
Mm-hmm.
this what Marshall called our habitual way of reacting,
Mm-hmm.
which is to be mean and and that's called jackal honesty because maybe we are annoyed, some need is not being met. But when we practice compassion and we empathize with our feelings and we stay with them, then a natural compassion arises and we are more able to say things in a way that can be heard by the other person.
Mm-hmm.
But that's no guarantee because the person
Mm-hmm.
has to do their own work, but takes a lot of time to get there sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. May I reflect a little bit? So you're mentioning Marshall Rosenberg's work. And his work, there's a lot in it. It sounds like I know a little bit of NVC, but it sounds like there's a lot in it around this question of what do we do with our jackal, inner jackal, and how might we be able to communicate that in a way that the other person can hear? Is that close? Yeah. And that may speak to what BJ is talking about when we have um, that primitive disgust, embodied gut sensation, what then, right? And so there are tools like NVC. There's also going to a therapist who can hold the space for us to, right, to access that level with the other person without destroying our relationship, right? And then Charles is saying, Jackal points the finger at the other person. You are da 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 da. Whereas in Giraffe Honesty, we communicate how we feel, right? So that's an important distinction. And Marvin says it can be very tricky to name when we say the unsayable. So Charles well, BJ, Charles, Marvin, do you want to clarify, expand a little bit on your chat points? Charles, yes.
Yeah. Well, we very easily think, oh, it's them, it's about them. And Marshall brings our awareness and our attention to what is my need in this situation. Oh, you're too stupid to understand me. So then the need I have is to be understood. And I'm worried that that need won't be met. So if I could just stay with that, maybe they're smart enough or they aren't smart enough. I have no idea. But what here communicate that I really want to be understood, and I'm worried and concerned and frightened that I won't be. It all stays here, close to my heart. It can go out at the other person and communicates from here, from what I'm feeling. I think that's a crucial insight from Marshall.
Thank you, Charles. So yeah, NVC is a whole path of how we can stay close to what we are feeling and needing so that we can communicate that to another person in a way that is more likely to be heard. And Marshall has a lot to say about that. And Charles is distilling a particular gem of what Marshall said about that. Is that close, Charles?
Yeah, I think so. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. BJ clarified that she was just trying to capture Liz's words. Amona is saying goodbye. She wanted to be here at least for the beginning of it, and we'll hopefully be able to watch the rest on the recording. And Marvin had said something about it can be very tricky to name when we say the unsayable. So Marvin or anyone else who would like to? Oh, Marvin, yes, go for it.
Lynn had her hands up. Okay.
Who? I'm sorry.
I'm going to say something maybe after Marvin.
Okay.
So, if I may, thank you, Rosa. Thank you, Rosa. It's very delicate between the intent of the words and the intention of a person speaking the words. And will both be heard? Will only one of them be heard? It's a bit tricky. To some extent, maybe, I'm not sure, maybe the intention of a person, I'm not sure, can reveal what's going on, can reveal a noble desire, can reveal a hope, a hope. The words are just the tool, and the tool can hurt, the tool can soften, the tool can bring light or bring shadow. I don't know, but just the tool. I'm not sure. I'm just saying it as it comes to my mind.
Whoops. Lynn, would you like to reflect, Marvin, and then speak, or do you want me to reflect, Marvin, and then speak?
I love your point, Marvin. Words are just pointers, right? And the intent is very important. I was going to say something like that also, something about that our words that we're expressing, the what's really going on, those words are pointing to something. And it's very good to know what the words are pointing to rather than taking the words, right? Because the word might mean something very different to me than it does to you. So with Liz's example about, oh, I think you are too stupid to understand me anyway. I just don't like you. The too stupid is referring to this gut feeling. And it's not really an intelligence test or something. It's this gut feeling of ugh, right? And and I want to say that some feelings, like some thoughts, aren't really what I want to communicate because they aren't for me what's really going on. So if I feel like, ugh, I don't want to hear from this person, they're too stupid to understand me. If I feel that, it's a gut feeling, I don't think that's what's really going on. I think what's really going on is something competitive, something, um, oh, something primal. And for me, that isn't the what's really going on. That's often those id feelings are protectors or inhibitors. Um, those things are ways that I protect my fragility and my vulnerability with my gut feelings of disgust or something like that, or rage or whatever it is. And then that's where focusing comes in. Um, it's like, well, what's really going on that I have this gut feeling? And then there's the kind of asking myself first, because expressing it also is an action. I want something. Why do I want that to be heard? Let's say I want that to be heard. Some little part of me, some young part of me wants that to be heard because I want people to say, yes, you're smart and that other person is dumb. And, for that little tiny part, that's saying, you're important and the other person isn't important, or you're good and the other person is no good. And that isn't, if I communicate it just as this gut feeling, there's so much work to get to what is it that I want to say, that I want to be heard. What do I want to be heard? The what's really going on is such a big question. And all of us have different answers to that. What I'm particularly interested in is what's going on in the group dynamic. What is the group trying to do? Like, the group is trying in this dynamic to test out Rosa's agreements, or to see how we feel about that, or to incorporate some tools that will help us. But the what's really going on for each person has many layers. There's a bumper sticker that I love that's I don't believe everything I think. And I think that it's true with feelings too, gut feelings. I don't believe every gut feeling I have. I'll say, oh, yes. So that is what I wanted to say.
Thank you so much, Lynn. May I pull out a few threads of what you shared to reflect back? Yeah. I want to start with what's really going on is a big, big question. Yeah. And then this, why am I wanting to say this, and what is it that I want the other person to hear? Right. Yeah. And the different levels, like what's happening in the individual and what's happening in the group, right? And your fascination with what's happening in the group. I think there was more, but those were some of the really big ones for me. Does anybody else want to reflect a particular gem for you and what Lynn said? Marvin, please.
Rosa, what come to my mind is what is being induced, meaning apart from the words by themselves, from where I am, I'm feeling my state changing because something is being induced and my system rejects that. I don't want anyone to interfere in my state. But then there's a tension that keeps on going because that desire or will to induce stays, and that is crossing for me my personal boundary. I can bear it, it's okay, but still it is crossing my personal boundary.
So Marvin, I'm struggling a bit to understand. Are you saying that right now you are feeling that a personal boundary of yours is being crossed and that something is being induced?
If I had to say that in a meeting, without spelling any agreement or making any agreement explicit, there is already a preset agreement that exists.
Yes.
And if we play above this and build something different, it can create a different tension in the field. It can create a different rapport we have with the space of a meeting. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you. The part I heard that I hadn't heard before yet is that when we come into a group, the group has a history, the group has a reason for being, and all of that context means that there are already some present agreements. And so then when we invite some new agreements, that can create a tension in the field. Is that close? Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. Great. Thank you. So just to clarify, I was invited to come and talk, and I said, I don't want to just talk about how I create safety in groups. If I am going to talk about how I create safety in groups, I also want to offer people an experience of how I do it. And you are pointing out very astutely that for this group, there's likely to be some tension created because I'm introducing new agreements into an already existing group that already has a life and a history and a context. And so it's kind of inevitable that introducing new agreements, even for this temporary moment, is going to create some level of tension. Is that close? Okay, awesome. Thank you. Yeah, Charles, I see your hand up. Charles and Eric. We can't hear you, Charles. You're on mute.
Realize that. Okay. Let me backtrack. What I appreciate what you said, Rosa, is that sort of picking up on Liz's idea or her friend's idea of what's really going on. We tend to assume that just the first ugly reaction is what's really going on. But if we take a moment and pause, it's much more complex, right? What is really going on? And we take the time to slow down, as we do with focusing, we can say, oh, I'm scared, or I'm hurt, or worried, I'm frightened, whatever. This might be what's going on more than, oh, they're such a stupid person. But we have to take the time to be vulnerability that comes from. I just wanted to really took from Lynn is that we have to take time to sense what is actually. That's enough.
Thank you, Charles. Taking the time to sense what is really going on. Eric?
When Charles was speaking, I had a feeling that, body and environment are not separate. And when Lynn was speaking, there was a couple of layers going on. When she moved, the landscape behind her went forward and backward. Which brought me like right here. This is not conceptual. And last time I was here, I mentioned that I felt estranged from my Tibetan Buddhist community. And I really felt heard and received. It was quite powerful. And in FOT class, Lynn did a demo with me where she asked me to check in. And when I went in, I was just in me. And she brought me back and she said, it's bold. What you have in, I don't remember exactly what she said, but to me, the meaning was it's both you're attending this way and me here. Bold. And there was a Sukhavati, which is a Buddhist ceremony to help someone enter the bardo to go on to their next life. And I decided to attend. This is my community that I feel usually I don't go there. I haven't been there much, a long time. And I remembered my interaction with Lynn. And I just tried to stay in here and with them. I felt that I loved them. And my friend whose brother died is actually, he and I are close. And he was very emotional, but he's almost never emotional. And he told the story of his brother, and it brought everyone into the vulnerability and how fragile and tender we are. And I experienced what I want from my community, which is that we are in our hearts together. And it was kind of profound that being received here last week and sort of owning my estrangement there, but feeling the connection here and then the interaction with Lynn carried forward. And it, there, I'm going to be careful not to go on because once I get started, I like to go on. There's a transition in Buddhism from self-liberation, which is you're really working with yourself, mindfulness. And it's hard to go from there to opening to phenomena, which is body and environment interaction in a way. And it's much harder to go from my piece that I've cultivated to relationship, because it's all these layers that Marvin was touching. You know, we're all touching. And that's where emptiness and awakened heart happen. That's when the Buddha taught the Heart Sutra, all the people that wanted to stay in their individual inside peace had heart attacks. They couldn't deal with it. And there's this edge that we work. What are our protectors up to? What's going on with our heart? Are we in? Are we out? It's all of these things. And I better stop.
Eric, thank you for pausing. I would like to reflect a little bit, if I may. But before I reflect, I just want to offer a little bit of being transparent as a facilitator. What I find from experience is that often when we start talking, we start feeling a little lonely, and we're not really sure that others are hearing us. And the lonelier we feel, the more anxious we can feel, and the more we can talk. And sometimes it really helps if someone says, "Can I please reflect what I've heard up to now?" And then we can feel connected and we can feel heard. And if there's more, we can say more. But there's an opportunity for relationship to come back into the picture when we are offered a reflection. So that's why I offer reflections.
Did you lose track of me? Did you lose track of me?
No, I didn't lose track of you, but you had said that the most important thing for you is this thing that happens in a group when we are in our hearts together. And I find that when we can pause and reflect in a group, it helps all of us be in our heart together. So and I'm just being transparent about why I do what I do. So that's what I want to invite you, if I can pause and reflect. So that was one piece that I really heard you say about how being heard in a focusing group here last time then carried forward and helped you feel more heard in this Buddhist community, or more connected with this Buddhist community. And you mentioned this story that someone shared about, maybe it was your brother who shared about someone who had passed, and how this story of grief helped everybody be in their hearts together. And that was really what you wanted from your community. And then you started to say other more theoretical stuff. And maybe I should have stepped in a little sooner and said, "Oh, can you pause right there? And can we all take a breath with you there?" Because it was such a rich, heartful moment when you said that, right? And I'm not sure I captured the theoretical stuff after that, although I was interested, because I'm very interested in Buddhism. But you mentioned like the different levels and starting to come back, the different levels of individual realization, and then the world of phenomena, and then the world of relationship and how that's harder and all that. So is that a okay summary for now of what you were saying? And hearing that, is there anything that is really burning for you to say before we go on to Rishash, who has shared something really interesting in the chat, and then Liz, and like that? So is there more that you need right now to feel complete, Eric?
Well, I would just say I think we've already moved on, because you just named places that you would like to go.
Well, I'm just naming that there are other people in the room who are wanting to speak. So it's not, this is where I would like to go. I am giving you information about what's in the room so that you can choose what you want to do next.
Okay. I'm feeling a little vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
And what I really got from what you said was that I lost you.
Okay.
That's my truth right now.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
And I feel that. No, I feel that.
Okay. So I'm hearing that your truth is that you feel that I lost you. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what I felt I took away from what you said.
Okay. Okay.
And
Could
I also heard, oh, go ahead. Go ahead, sorry.
Hi, Eric and Rosa. Just, is it true, Rosa? Did you lose Eric?
Um, that wasn't my experience of it.
So you
But
didn't lose.
my experience is that he said something very deep that I felt a deep connection to, and that as a facilitator, I sensed that other people may also have been feeling a deep connection to. And then he went on to some more intellectual stuff, which part of me was really avidly following because I read Buddhism for 20 years and practiced as well. And then I moved into Jewish renewal and whatever. But so part of me was very interested in what he was saying. And I noticed that there had been a shift in the tone of what he was saying. So that was my experience. Thank you for asking, Pauline.
And I suppose just I'll stay going now that I've. So in that interaction, whoever is facilitating or that, I hear something of Eric and Rosa going, communicating something, and there's a sort of a mismatch from what I'm hearing, So I'm
Yeah.
curious about that. I
Yeah.
like that, and it
Yeah.
makes me feel warm because I'm not questioning who's right or wrong, but I am hearing something.
Yeah. So again, I'm just in my role. Part of what I'm doing is tracking the different threads in the room. I just want to say that there's a very long comment from Rishra, and I'm sorry, I don't know how to say your name. Richa, can someone help me in the chat? And then there's a comment from Liz, and then there's a hand up from Susan, and then there's a hand up from Liz. And I may not be seeing everybody. So if I may do the timeout thing and make a little bit of a meta comment right now, one of the things I forgot to say is that as a facilitator, I often ask the group to help me because I'm not claiming I can do everything perfectly. I'm here in a role of service to the group, right? And I'm asking your help in helping everybody be heard, helping people notice when there are people in the room who haven't been heard. What you just did, Pauline, was super helpful. You said, well, this is what I'm hearing in the interaction. So I invite people's help actively and explicitly and thank them for it. So that's my piece now. I'm going to just hand it over to, given everything that's in the room, who feels the need to speak next.
I would like to empathize with Eric and hear from Eric what's going on under that, if it's okay with the group. And if it's okay with Eric, if he's willing to share.
Yeah, no, I appreciate what Rosa was saying. It was true. And it is true that for me, it was meaningful. And bringing heart experience and transformation to language and then connecting it to deep principles is a love. And I couldn't really tell the one piece from the other. It was, it was profound. I'm so excited about it and happy. And so I'm good. And I'm more vulnerable both from sharing what I shared and from Rosa and my interaction. Vulnerable is good.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing, Eric, is that you were really touched by what Rosa shared, and you're very excited about this heart connection and sharing from the heart and being in a group in that way. And you're feeling vulnerable because of the interaction.
Actually, I felt a little startled back into a sense of disconnect when Rosa was speaking, and that's okay. I learned something.
So you were startled into a sense of disconnect. Was it because you thought that she didn't get what you were saying, or she wasn't able to follow you?
Well, maybe in accord with our conversation here, my inner desire was really to be felt and heard. And she was saying, well, that kind of got lost. And so that's a little sad. It's okay.
Yeah. Is there something you would have liked that would have helped you to connect?
Actually not. I feel vulnerably content. And I'm learning to facilitate groups, and sometimes I facilitate groups and I have to cut people off. It's correct.
Thank you, Eric. After your sharing, I understand a little bit more about how you were feeling in that interaction. So thank you for sharing so openly.
Thank you, Priyanka, and thank you, Eric. There's just reminding the group that Susan's had her hand up for a while, and Liz has had her hand up, and other people have commented in the chat as well. So who would like to speak next?
I can go. I so appreciated that interaction between you two, because I have a part that wants to listen and reflect and, be a good leader when I'm asked to do that. And I have so many other feelings. So when Eric pushed a little and I heard some discomfort in you, Rosa, I was so happy for myself. And oh, yes, yes, here it is. And so I was very, yeah, so that made me happy that we can have these moments of discomfort. Also, we can come out of our beautiful tone into more of a tone of frustration or uncomfortableness. I don't want to put words into how you are feeling, Rosa, so I want to be careful there. But that just made me happy. And then, go back and forth with that, and it's all okay. And other people in the group can help, and that's all okay. And we could even miss somebody. And then I had, of course, deep feelings of times when I felt disconnected or didn't feel heard or felt cut off. And so I really related to just that underneath sense that I got from Eric, and then the fullness of his being with himself and expressing and sharing, and that presence that he that I felt from him. I love that also. And I love the group various people coming in with trying to facilitate this. So I just want to share that.
Thank you, Susan. Whoops.
Can I say something?
Yes,
I had a
please.
profound moment before, Rosa, when you were talking about the loneliness of the monopolizer. I totally resonated with that. As somebody people tell me, I can talk so much, and there's this feeling that people have that it's just this great place to be when you go on, and you have so much power, but I think you said it's someone or a friend I'm speaking to you, Rosa, about when you said before about that what happens is it's like you jump off a cliff, or that's the wrong metaphor, but you put yourself out there and then you're there and you don't know if you're being understood. You don't know, you're feeling embarrassed, you're feeling ashamed, you don't know how to get out of it. And the only way you know is to say more, because that's your medium. You're a baker. All you know is, well, I'll make more biscuits. It's like, that's all I got, folks, are these words. So, and then I want to stop, but if I stop, the shame comes up, somehow, because in the stopping, now I'm supposed to give other people a chance, but that's incredibly dangerous. If you give other people a chance, now they're going to say something either about you, which is embarrassing, or they're going to change the subject, like, oh my God, I just said all that, and they're changing this. It's just hell, kind of. So thank you for pointing out the hell of the person who seems to be confident speaking in a group.
Thank you for sharing that, Liz. If I may, I'm not going to reflect right away, but I'm going to add that I think many of us have a part that is like that, right? Like, I know I have a part that can go on and on and on and feel lonelier and more anxious the more I've been talking. And I'm not assuming that everyone does, but it's just lovely to hear you acknowledge that you have a part like that as well. So feeling very appreciative. Thank you.
I want to say that I also so appreciated that interaction. It was such a beautiful example of group process. And I loved what you said, Liz, because one of the most difficult things for me, not only as a group leader, but just in general, is when people go on and on. And my mother went on and on a lot, and I felt like captive, and I had to listen. And I thought, will she ever stop speaking? And so as a facilitator, it's always very difficult for me, because I want to hear the person, but I want to what I call succinctify it. But then when I succinctify it, of course, the person feels cut off, left, um, shut down. And it's a wonderful conundrum that is one of the unsayables, in a way. To say, I want to hear you, but you're going on too long for me. I can't hold all of that. It's very, very difficult to say. One of the things that I have more trouble saying than, ugh, I don't like you, or something.
Thank you so much, Lynn, for bringing out another unmentionable. This is maybe shorthand. I don't know that this is what you said, but how I might distill it is facilitators are humans too. Right? Like, there's a lot of challenging aspects of what we do that sometimes is not easy to talk about because we really want to be there for others. So is that close?
Yes, that's part of it. But part of it is that humans are humans too.
Yes.
It's like in that it might feel to me like the person is going on too long, and it might also be for the group that the group has lost the person, or many people in the group. And then maybe for other people, oh, I love hearing this person talk more and more, and I want them to talk more and more and more. So it's always so delicate that what's too much for me might not be too much for everybody, and that I have to always remind me that the speaking too much is the too much for me, and maybe for some other people. It's not too much. There's no right amount.
Yeah.
It's sort of like every couple, I think, or most couples that I've been in, one person wants more closeness, more sex, more whatever, intimacy, and the other person wants it to be more spacious. And we can never have exactly the right amount of talking of anything, because we're all coordinating so so specific, um, unique beings and nervous systems and experiences and whatever. So giving names to that, I have a kind of rule in my head that if you want your ball to be caught, just throw one ball. Now I have another ball, so I'm not going to say that one because I want this ball to be caught.
Thank you, Lynn, for that super helpful metaphor. Dorothy and Sophie have both been waiting patiently.
Thanks, Rosa. What I wanted to share, the ball I'd like to share, I like that concept, is that I've been wanting something like this in Help for Helpers and haven't been able to state what it was until you created this, Rosa, and was thinking of sharing it in the planning committee, that there's an interaction today that makes me feel very comfortable, in comfort, that people responded to each other. Like no one, I don't know what people feel inwardly, but my experience was that everyone got a chance who spoke to be heard and responded to. And I just love that. I've been sometimes so afraid to speak because of my desire to be responded to. Otherwise, the words just hang there and I'm lost. And, invisibility is a huge piece for my thread of being in life. So I just wanted to express like an appreciation and I don't know, a good feeling that we can accomplish this in such a large group. I find that very special. So thank you.
Mm.
I don't know if that was clear, but I hope it was.
Dorothy, if I may, what I particularly resonated with, and so this gets tricky here because we're all focusers and we all know how to reflect, right? So I want to make space for other people who want to reflect to you as well. I particularly resonated with the part of feeling invisible can bring up some early things for you, because I know that it can for me as well. And so how you're appreciating being in a group where you're feeling like everything that each person said was actually seen and heard and reflected. Is that close?
Yes.
Something like that?
No, that's more than close.
Okay.
It's bullseye.
And Sophie, you've been waiting patiently.
Thank you, Rosa. Thank you, everybody. Yes, I feel like the history of this group is allowing this kind of safety that we are feeling here and how much we can share. One of the things that when I used to teach group in expressive therapy, were two things. Somebody, I think, said to send the speaking to the center. And we used to do that, but we used also to do that with art. So sometimes there's a way that words can be heard a certain way because they mean so many different things. We have different meanings for words. And sometimes an image can embrace more. But the other thing I wanted to say is, yeah, that also what I hold inside is that what we say has more to do with who is saying what they're saying than who they are talking to. I don't know if that's clear. What we say has more to do with the person who's speaking than who they are addressing, right? And that sometimes allowed in some group that had been meeting for a long time, and there was a high trust level, to go with what Liz first spoke about, the gut feeling, those raw way feelings that we have, and sometimes we just want to say it as it is, and it's not. It's if there is not a high level of safety, this can hurt, and it stays. Even if we rationalize, oh, they say this, they were angry and they don't mean it, da da da. But they did say you're stupid, and I still hear that. It's hard, and I have noticed that in couple therapy, when that is opened up, is it helpful? Maybe the question of where and in what context it is helpful might help. Is it maybe a therapeutic context that needs the gut feeling to be expressed just the way they want to be expressed? So that's my question. But I have expressed my gut feeling in some spaces, and even in a bodily way, and it has felt very therapeutic. But it was in therapeutic spaces.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Sophie. May I catch your ball and toss it back and see
Please.
whether I got it?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if you used the word context, but that's what I kept hearing, right? When and where and in what context might this pouring out of our gut feeling be helpful? And I just heard you wrestling with that and looking at your own experience and what your own experience has been, and mentioning how in some therapeutic context and or when a group has known each other a long time, and how when the context isn't quite right, that how some harm can be caused when we pour out those gut feelings in a certain way. Is that close?
Yes, thank you. That's
Yeah.
great. Thank you so much.
And Lip has his hand up. You like to unmute yourself?
Yes, I will be very short. I have 3 observations. The first one is, like we agree in the first, not to hold myself back. So this is me not holding myself back. The second observation is I'm full of appreciation. This is very beautiful experiential learning. So thank you, everyone, and very well facilitated. My third observation and last observation is I like to reattune to what Lee said, which reminds me to be as continuously as I can with my felt sensing as it arises at each and every moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee, for those 3 beautiful balls and for naming them so clearly. So, yeah, just really appreciating you're not holding back the way that we had agreed that people would not hold back. And then you shared that for you, this has been valuable experiential learning. And then you were echoing Lynn's reminder to stay in contact with her felt sense as much as we can throughout. Is that close?
That's so well summarized. Thank you. Makes my heart sing.
I'd like to say that I think what the group is getting at, if we think of the whole conversation, is something about, well, what do we mean by unsayable? As Gene would say, what do you want the word unsayable to mean? And it means so many different things to different ones of us and in different contexts. And why say the unsayable? I think we haven't really talked about that. Why is it important to say the unsayable? Does it do some good?
Lynn, I hear you posing a question to the group, and I would, you're free to respond as you want, but I would be really curious what your sense of that is.
My sense of it is that some things have to be said. They're called upon me to say. And then if I don't say them, I'm not going to be really there with the group. That's one thing. Another thing is things are unsayable because I have trouble saying those things. You know, I have trouble talking about this or that or the other thing. Unsayable can be also that you know that what you have, that your ball is going to be hurtful to the other person or embarrassing to the other person, or maybe you want to hurt the other person, maybe something in you. And I love that phrase that I think Ann Weiser Cornell has given us. You know, something in me wants to say, "You're a stupid idiot. Get out of the." You know, and if I say something in me wants to say that, the person can get that it isn't me, the full person, that wants to say that wants to hurt them, but something in me wants to lash out. Just all the different things about unsayable, and also maybe that focusing is the practice of making the unsayable sayable. It's unsayable because it's unformulated. It's unsayable because it's repressed. It's unsayable because it's forbidden. It's unsayable because of the culture of the particular group or society. But it's like the focusing helps to make the implicit explicit and find words for it. And that's quite a miracle.
Lynn, thank you so much. I'd love to reflect back a few threads about that, but before a process question, would this be a good place to have at least 10 minutes in small groups, or are we about to end, or where are we time-wise?
I think it's time to stop, and we need our poem.
Oh,
Wow.
okay. And Mia is raising her hand.
Oh,
Mia.
good.
I wanted to add what's for me also a very important context. That's language.
Yes.
Because I'm not native English speaker. And that's for me a handicap. I lose my most important tool. Whether I am a participant or facilitator, I feel this vulnerability that when I am expressing something, I always have a slight discomfort of, I don't know if this word is exactly what I wanted to say, if it's not my mother tongue. In my mother tongue, I feel very comfortable in my language. But being in a group where English is the dominant language, that's for me a very important context. And especially in the unsayable things, because I lose my most important tool, which is this fine-tuned language.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Mia. Lynn, I hear that we need to be drawing to a close and saying the poem, and you had shared some beautiful things, of which the last one was that focusing is the practice of saying the unsayable. And I'm glad we have all this recorded. And Yao, it seemed like you wanted to share something before we end, and I wanted to make space for that.
Was that me, Rosa?
Yes, that was you. I was specifically inviting.
No, I'm I think what I wanted to say and what I'm feeling is just a lot of hallelujah. A lot of hallelujahs in what you were sharing and what everybody was bringing in. And just really feeling great that, one, validating my own practice of facilitation over the many, many years, and then also opening up to even furthering that facilitation in the techniques, maybe not techniques, the the way you brought the magnifying glass and brought it closer to me. So that's really what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yao. And I'm sorry, I didn't reflect what Mia said, but I just want to say language, I want to underline it. Language is so important. And I think the more we slow things down, the more helpful it can be for everyone whose this isn't their first language. And it's so important that we create an accessible space for everyone. So thank you so much for speaking up about that, Mia. It's I hope my experience is that it really helped me feel it deeper to have you speak about it so personally and vulnerably. And I think it's such an important thing for all of us to be aware of. So with that, over to you, Lynn, and just thank you everyone for participating so openly and richly.
Thank you so much, Rosa. Thank you so much. And we really, really appreciate this. It was wonderful for me to have you facilitate and just to take that in. And it was a beautiful interaction. So I think we have a poem by Dorothy, not by Dorothy, but that Dorothy is going to speak.
This is called Call Me by My True Names by Thich Nhat Hanh. Do not say that I'll depart tomorrow, because even today I still arrive. Look deeply. I arrive in every second to be a bud on a spring branch, to be a tiny bird with wings still fragile, learning to sing in my new nest, to be a caterpillar in the heart of a flower, to be a jewel hiding itself in a stone. I still arrive in order to laugh and to cry, in order to fear and to hope. The rhythm of my heart is the birth and death of all that are alive. I am the mayfly, metamorphosing on the surface of the river, and I am the bird which, when spring comes, arrives in time to eat the mayfly. I am the frog swimming happily in the clear pond. I am also the grass snake who, approaching in silence, feeds itself on the frog. I am the child in Uganda, all skin and bones, my legs as thin as bamboo sticks. And I am the arms merchant selling deadly weapons to Uganda. I am the 12-year-old girl, refugee on a small boat, who throws herself into the ocean after being raped by a sea pirate. And I am the pirate, my heart not yet capable of seeing and loving. I am a member of the Politburo, with plenty of power in my hands. And I am the man who has to pay his debt of blood to my people dying slowly in a forced labor camp. My joy is like spring, so warm it makes flowers bloom in all walks of life. My pain is like a river of tears, so full it fills the 4 oceans. Please call me by my true names, so I can hear all my cries and laughs at once, so I can see that my joy and pain are one. Please call me by my true names, so I can wake up, and so the door of my heart can be left open, the door of compassion.
Oh, and please read about Martin Luther King named him for the Nobel Prize.
Mm. Beautiful. Was there something you wanted Dorothy to read? Katerina?
Oh, just that this came
Yes.
from
That
Call Me by My True Name, and that Thich Nhat Hanh is the Vietnamese Zen Buddhist monk.
Yes.
And he was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize.
Yes.
Martin Luther King Jr., who was our Help for Helpers last week.
Yes. Thank you. Okay. Bye-bye, everybody. We have a planning meeting at 10 o'clock, which it isn't that short. We have about 7 minutes. And we'll see you all next time. We'll start the month of discussing the undiscussables. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you, Rosa.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.